EAGLES, Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, inching closer to Week 16 in the NFL. Only 3 weeks to play, everybody. Eagles will play Saturday evening this weekend. They'll play at 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Another unusual time for this team. Check another one off the list, but they got the Commanders in Washington this weekend. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday edition, brother?
Doing well. Saturday, getting ready. Everything's off schedule by a day. Everything's moved up a day, moved back a day. So these crazy weeks continue. And the Eagles have been a little bit uneven, typically, on short weeks this year. Had some of the poor games. Now, that was, much earlier, Thursday and Friday. That the Giants on Thursday, that was probably the worst game of the season. The Bears on Black Friday, that may be their second worst game of the season. So maybe the extra day helps. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see. But it has been a little bit uneven during these short weeks this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, John. It's interesting stuff. The Eagles are 9-5 right now, John. Kind of a weird spot where they lost 3 to, pretty good opponents. Not all good, but, good enough to make you somewhat concerned. Then they bounced back with a good win versus the Raiders. Now you have kind of it's a divisional opponent, but a weaker team coming up. It's going to be interesting to see what the gauge is on this team as they probably get ready for the playoffs here. I mean, they can close up the NFC East with a win on Saturday, which I assume they will do. And if they don't do it, I'm assuming maybe the Cowboys will lose or we'll see what happens.
Yeah, something will happen.
Something's going to happen that the Eagles will win the East. But It's going to be tough to gauge this team, John, going into the postseason because how good is the competition? You know what I mean? I think the Bills are obviously really good competition, and we'll see how they fare against those guys. But it's going to be interesting to gauge this team heading into the playoffs. Not that college is similar, but when a big college beats up on Mercer, it doesn't really indicate that they're going to win the national championship. But it does indicate that they're a much better team. So the Eagles right now are kind of in an interesting spot, with 3 games to play here.
Yeah, I mean, and they have time to work some things. I think they have a little luxury of now you want to get as high a seed as possible, and it's still realistic to get the second seed, probably not realistic to get the first seed, but and you'd rather have that potential divisional round game in Philadelphia than say Chicago or Green Bay. So it's still important to play and still important to win. And I think you got to keep playing until that is exhausted, that opportunity. But at the same time, it's not the urgency of fighting for the number 1 seed. You're pretty much locked in. You are locked into. Excuse me, the voice is going to be a problem today because I'm struggling through a cold here. But You're locked into the 3rd seed because the 4th seed is obviously going to be the NFC South winner, who are both 7-7 right now. So they're not going to jump you. So that's a luxury to have, and the fact that and we're seeing it. I think with some of the injuries they do have, looks like Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter are out for another week. Not that that's a surprise for Jalen Carter. And Lane had posted some emojis and things that made you think he was getting closer, but he's not out there again. So, you get the feeling if this kind of unfolded like the NFL thought it would unfold when they set up the Eagles to play the Commanders 2 times over the final 3 games, and they needed this game, I think it might be a little bit different. I think guys would be pushing to get back on the field. They're not. So you have that sort of luxury.
Do you think if this was a massive game here, like you think Lane would be playing?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, me too.
No doubt.
They're just holding out precautionary type reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And you saw some of the stuff on Hard Knocks about him rehabbing, moving the foot pretty well. I don't think there's any doubt he would have tried to get back quicker, but it's not. And so you have some luxuries there, Fred's not practicing yet this week. I think he'll practice today, and I think he'll play in the game. Landon Dickerson, they've been managing him through weeks to get him to games, so you can afford to do that stuff a little bit more when you have the luxury of what the Eagles do. And that's 99% going into Saturday's game. They're going to be the NFC's champions and the 3 seed at worst in the 5th consecutive postseason, which ain't easy to do.
No, it's not. So well done for the Eagles getting back there. John, some good stuff happened yesterday, not only in Eagle land, but in the NFL land. I did see you repost. I reposted up that Kirk Cousins thing. I looked on Twitter, boom, immediately you had reposted it as well. That was pretty awesome. I want to talk about that Kirk Cousins clip. I think there's a good topic there we can get into as well. So we'll do that a little bit. Let's start with
yesterday. Isn't it fun when people talk about actual things?
Oh, man, was that a good clip from Kirk Cousins? I would encourage everybody to go listen to it. But let's say that. I do want to use that a little bit later on in the show. Let's get into just the Eagle updates from yesterday. You just kind of got into the injury a little bit already, John, with Lane and Jalen. But what is the rest of the injury report? They practiced yesterday at the link because the Novacare complex was frozen, or they had snow on the ground still?
They had snow on the ground, so frozen fields. So, yeah, don't get me started on that complex, but they had to go over to Lincoln Financial Field. That's fine, but good day for Academy. The bus, they get 5 buses to roll over there, so they get some cash.
There you go. Nice Academy. Good stuff for Academy. Yeah. But what is the rest of the injury report, John? I think Saquon was back out there, stuff like that. So what do you got on the rest of it?
Yeah, Saquon was that. So the guys who didn't practice, we mentioned Jalen Carter, Lane Johnson, most notably. They're not going to play this on Saturday. Landon Dickerson didn't practice, but typical rest designation now on what was a Wednesday, but is really a Thursday. That's how they've been doing it from a normal NFL week. And Fred Johnson also, he was out there, but not practicing with his ankle injury, and they're just managing him to get to the game. Cam Latu was upgraded to limited with stinger he suffered, so he's on track to play. And Saquon was upgraded. He was full. He's got a stinger too. Jalen Phillips was upgraded to full, so he's on track. And then Zach Bond, Tank Bigsby, Cam Williams. Tank was ill. A lot of people are ill, including me. Full practice, so he's back. Zach's been playing through that. Cam Williams is still on this 21-day practice window, so I don't think he's going to be activated. They're just going to do what they did with Willie Lampkin and Miles Hinton. They get him out there to practice for 3 weeks. Barring another injury or some of these guys not being able to play, I think he's going to get shut down, but we'll see how that looks.
A lot of offensive linemen there. Is the thought process with Dickerson and Fred Johnson, not Lane Johnson, that it's more like management type injuries and they'll be.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're just managing them to the game. And that's not uncommon around the NFL this time of year because a lot of guys are banged up. And you, especially with veteran players, you manage them to get to the game. So they're both expected to play.
Good stuff there on the injury report for the latest. They do play Saturday, so a quicker turnaround. John mentioned, they posted up Sirianni's game winning or the victory speech, and when someone's like, "What? We have another short week." These guys, which is pretty funny. So yeah, they have the Saturday game, which is a little odd, especially with the college football playoffs on Saturday, with 3 games on Saturday. But it is what it is. They'll play 5 p.m. on Saturday. John, a couple other pieces of news that came out yesterday. Probably some people won't like this topic, but it is a topic. Jeremy Fowler had another report about A.J. Brown. Not that I think he's breaking anything major here, but, Jeremy Fowler put out that A.J. Brown he's hearing from multiple executives around the league that the Eagles might trade the star wide receiver after the 2025 season. Seems to me one of those reports that's not necessarily from someone inside the Eagles building, but from Jeremy talking to people around the league. That's not to say it shouldn't be trusted, but it's just Jeremy Fowler is not a clickbait type of guy. He is a good reporter, and a credible reporter at that. What do you make of the latest rumor from Jeremy Fowler? How much stock do you put in stuff like this, John?
Yeah, didn't see it, but you're right about Jeremy. Yeah, I mean, this is going in that. I've been talking about it for weeks. People have been paying attention. This is going in this direction. Now, it doesn't mean there's not time to turn it around, but I don't think anybody's happy in this scenario. I don't think AJ's happy. I don't think the Eagles are happy. So, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago where I said, I'm now trending toward he's not going to be there next year. Now, if you make a run, if you go to the championship, again, winning cures everything. That may change. There's not to say there's not a potential for change, but yeah, I would take it very seriously.
Could be coming to an end. One of the best receivers the Eagles have ever had. I hope
the best. I would argue the best.
I would argue that
with all due respect to my buddy Mike Quick and
Mike Quick,
Harold Carmichael, who's in the Hall of Fame. All due respect, and they will live on. Obviously, Harold in the Hall of Fame. Mike, much longer, if it happens, much longer spans with the Eagles. So, but just for pure production and even that short amount of time, he's been unbelievable. But sometimes other things get in the way.
Would that be a good move in your opinion?
Well, I think when it gets to a point when nobody's happy, I think, you start talking about addition by subtraction. You're not going to get better at the wide receiver position.
No, you're definitely not better.
But, it might be a better situation for everybody. So it might be a different style of getting better. Is all I could say. But that's a long way to go. And, winning can change that. So, and by no means, I think of all the AJ, and I don't have the Bible verse in front of me, but that describes AJ perfectly when he put that Bible verse, with something about withdrawing. I'm sure people have it, but, he's sort of withdrawn because he's not, from his perspective, not being listened to. So
if you're not welcome, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and what's the rest of it?
Yeah, I think that's the best summation of what's going on.
There you go. What kind of compensation do you think AJ Brown would bring the Eagles?
Pretty significant, but probably not as much as people would think because of the contract and all that. You have to probably work out an extension. Obviously, it's high level, but
do you think it'd be a first-round pick?
Depending on where it is in the first round, sure, potentially. Not, it's not going to be a top 10 pick, but yeah. And the Eagles have to eat some significant. There's a lot of hurdles, but that's off-season stuff. I don't want to get down that route yet. But just from Jeremy's standpoint of, I mean, and certainly from his perspective, it's certainly probably coming from outside the building, but there's smoke to that fire, no question about it.
Yeah, for sure. Where there is smoke, there's fire. That's the saying, and I agree with it. No doubt about it. Good stuff there, John. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think one of the ways it was put in the Fowler piece was basically, at this point, everybody believes A.J. Brown would welcome a new passing game. So I think that's understood, and you could see that really since 23, since there's been
and be careful for what you wish for.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing that. This to me doesn't seem smart. It is also not a great time for these type of rumor. I mean, you're 3 weeks out from another postseason run where you're trying to get back to the big game. For the second straight year.
I don't think you have to worry about him not trying to win.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying it's not an ideal time to have these rumors because, as you pointed out yesterday, the outside noise does make a difference. They do hear it, they do see it, they do listen to it, and they do respond to it, John. So
often,
right? So not something you really want out there, but it is something that is out there. John, good stuff overall there on the Eagles as we prep now for this Commanders game. What's your early thought, man, on the Commander game? Week 16, first of the two matchups versus this team. No Jaden Daniels. They got Marcus Mariota. They're coming off a win versus the New York Giants. I think they only have 4 wins on the season, if I'm not mistaken. A drastic fall for the Washington Commanders this year. What's your early thought on that game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's similar with any of these teams that are eliminated late in the season. I think you kind of get a feel early in the game. If they get behind early, they're probably going to check out. And if they start playing well, they're probably going to fight and, potentially play spoiler. So I think this is one where you tune in the first quarter and see how it's going. And if the Eagles really are able to put the foot on the pedal quickly, I think Washington will slink away. If not, division game, and then you start talking about spoiler, and they certainly want to play spoiler and all that stuff because guys are playing for jobs next year. Dan Quinn still got to prove he's the guy to turn this thing around. And there's a lot of built-in excuses for Washington. So I think it's a little bit easier for the coaching staff to just point to the injuries and Jaden Daniels and all that kind of stuff and say, yeah, we'll get it right back on track. But it's harder to make that argument if you're losing a couple weeks ago, they lost 31-0. If you're losing like that, it's tougher to make that argument. But if you're fighting and clawing, it's a lot easier. So there's a lot of things to play for, even though there isn't anything to play for Washington. But that's just the human nature of it. If you get behind early and you're in that position, guys tend to start, thinking about wherever they're going in the offseason.
Cancun.
Yeah.
Which is overrated, by the way. Why is that the place everybody goes? If I had a boatload of cash, I would not be going to freaking Coon.
Well, no, you don't want to go. If you got a boatload of cash, you're not going to a tourist destination. You're going to somewhere where only a few people can go.
Yeah, right.
You got a boatload of cash. Yeah.
What's in Cancun that all these players like Cancun? I guess it's partying and women. I don't know.
Well, it's always women. It's always women. Ask Cooper.
What's going on with that? I saw that.
I don't know.
It's clearly something. You brought it up.
No.
You saw something, J-Mac.
Well, Nikki Bella, the wrestler.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
She's like double his age. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. She's cougaring it up, supposedly. Who knows?
There you go, Coop. There you go, Coop. Do what you got to do, Coop.
Yeah. So we'll see. But, I don't. By the way, I don't even know that. Nikki and her sister have been around the Eagles for a long time. They're legitimate Eagles fans. Like, they would often be at games long before Cooper got here. But they do seem to have an affinity for each other. And I don't blame Cooper one bit, by the way.
That's pretty good. Good stuff from Cooper DeJean. Good stuff all around there. We'll see, John. I do think that's a factor in the game this weekend, though, where some people's mindsets might be off. But there also is the other side of it, John, where it's like, a lot of these players, and not everybody has this mindset. You always talk about how when you have this many players in a locker room, most of the time they're not, almost all the time, they're not going to be on the same page with everything. But there is also the thought process of you're playing for your NFL life. I mean, some of these guys could be on their last team, on their last roster, in their last moment, So, sometimes when they got nothing to lose, that can also be a factor in the game as well, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that always is, and from a coaching perspective too, you'll always hear, it's 4th and 5. Well, why not go for it? What do you got to lose? And maybe they take a field goal or they punt it in that instance in the regular season. And then it's like 4-down football. One of the things, if you think about it from an overtime perspective, now that they have the new rules, which were always the rules in the playoffs, but new rules in the regular season, most people want to kick off because they want to know what they have to do. If they score, you need to score a touchdown. If they score a field goal, you got to score a touchdown. They want to know what they have to do now that each team gets the football. And the biggest advantage of that is it's 4-down football. There's no decision making. If you're down 3 or you're down 7, it's 4-down football. And if you think about it from just an analytics standpoint, it's tough to stop people from going 10 yards and 4 downs. A lot tougher than 3 downs. So that's the reason people do it. And when you have that freedom to not worry about other stuff, sometimes it works in your favor. Now it could blow up as well because you're a bad football team going on 4th and 5. So, but that's how you say, well, how does so-and-so, a good team, lose to a team that's out of it? Well, that's why, they're playing loose. They're playing freer.
Right.
There's no pressure. A lot of things.
Going to be an interesting one this weekend. A divisional matchup. Eagles are 2-2 in the division so far, right? Eagles are 2-2 in NFC East play this year. They got 2 to play. Commanders. So let's see how they fare in the first game versus the Commies. John, it's on the road. How much is that shitty stadium and field a factor in games like this? You guys always talk about how crappy that place is, but how much is that a factor on the football field?
As long as Jalen can avoid the gates falling on him.
Holy crap, I remember that. That was wild.
I think you're fine, but, they've always had tremendous success down there because, A, their fans usually take it over, the Eagles, and B, that generally Washington has been a bad team and they're a good team and they win. So it's never been a problem for them. I don't think there's anything wrong with the field. It's just the state, everything around the field is, probably the worst stadium in the NFL. No secret there. And they're going to get a new stadium back in DC, actual DC. So, and I'm sure that'll be a beautiful stadium. And when we can all put FedEx Field, now it's Northwest Stadium in the rearview mirror. But for many years, Daniel Snyder held that team organization hostage, and it's a dump. It is an absolute dump.
No doubt. Going to be a factor this weekend. Good stuff there in the open. I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here this morning on Birds 365. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Appreciate all you guys being here. We'll get to some comments. All super chats go to the top. We have an opened up show today, so plenty of conversation to go around. We appreciate you guys for being here. Hit that like button. John, before we get into my next topic here about the Eagles' run game, I do want to talk a little bit about the game tonight. All right, you got the NFC West, and you have probably the winner of the game tonight will have the best chance to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. Both Rams and Seahawks play tonight. They are both 11-3. Battling it out for the NFC West and also battling it out for first place in the NFC. That game tonight is, I believe, in Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Thursday night game. The Rams are missing potentially Devontae Adams, a key player there. John, who do you think the Eagles should want to get the 1 seed? If one of these two, let's just assume one of these two teams is going to get it. Who do you think the Eagles should want to win the game tonight?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I think most people would say the Seahawks because of Sam Darnold. I say the Rams because of SoFi Stadium. CenturyLink Field, if that's what they still call it. I can't keep up with it. But that is one, Quest Field, whatever they call it. And that's one of the most difficult places to play. It is loud. It is. You remember the Beastquake run from Marshawn Lynch back in the day? They call it that because the ground was shaking. It was so loud. Just the way it's built, even though it's outdoors. Just one of the most difficult places in the NFL to play. And SoFi, the Eagles take over, Eagles fans. And even in the playoffs, they will, because LA people are LA people, and they're, football's like 75th on their list.
Yeah, literally.
So I'm in the minority. And you have that defense, which I think is the best defense in the NFC. If you look at their their margins, 405 points versus 242 given up. I mean, they're a good football team. I mean, Sam Darnold hasn't done it in the playoffs, but there's other things to factor in.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. And that's one where, again, it's a ferocious environment to go in there and play well.
Sam needs to take a page out of Jalen Hurts' book in the postseason. Play risk averse.
Exactly. Well, and that's not his nature. So, they're going to take some shots down the field, but and he could take advantage of it. Maybe he throws a couple picks. Certainly susceptible to getting sacks because he'll hold on to the football, trying to let those long developing routes get going. Can work both ways though. Smith and Jigba's pretty stinking good. So he's having a special season. Yeah, so from that perspective, and then the Eagles have the Rams number, and I think they're in the Rams' head. So I think people think the Rams are the more well-rounded team, and I wouldn't dispute that because I think they're the most well-rounded team in the NFL overall. But Seattle's pretty close.
Yeah, they are. They are. I think it's. You already mentioned it. The big discrepancy there is the quarterbacks. I mean, if you took the quarterbacks out of the equation, you could probably make an argument the Seahawks are a better team.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's see. I'm going to go overall. Overall, PFF has the Rams number 1 and Seattle number 2.
Oh, geez. They're right there.
Yeah. So that kind of tells you they're both really good teams. But and you're right with Matthew Stafford, but the Eagles have his number. He has not played well against you.
I'm sorry, I'm not saying you're wrong. I hate that argument because everybody used to say the Bucs have the Eagles number.
Styles make fights. Yeah, but the Bucs did. The Bucs did though because Todd Bowles.
That's what I mean though. Until they didn't, when the Eagles were just the better team. Well,
I agree, but in this instance, you're not. These teams are very close. Both the Rams and the Seahawks and the Rams and the Eagles, they're very close. It's not like, one team's much better. So yeah, I don't see it. You're right. I mean, I always said, I don't know why people are so scared of the Bucs right now because they're not very good. When they're good, I get it. Because Todd Bowles kind of has something on Jalen Hurts, and he's done the best job at exploiting it. But when you don't have the pieces to exploit it,
right,
it lessens. I think both of these teams, all three of these teams, are pretty close. And I think not only Matthew but also Sean McVay. I think believe me, Sean McVay thinks about Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I know.
Shutting him down.
You're right. You're definitely right about that part.
So I kind of look at it to start it. I kind of look at it a little bit differently. I think Seattle would be the tougher hurdle.
So
I really do.
I like that, boy. Eagles, Seattle. That thing could be like 10-7 in the postseason.
Yeah.
So my perspective is, I do agree, obviously, about the Seattle stadium. I mean, that's a legitimately good ass fan base, good stadium, tough place to play, and that defense is good. My thing would more be, I want to make the Rams road to the road as hard as possible, and then being able to sit in LA for a month, to me, is the best benefit for them, even if their stadium gets taken over every week. I mean, they don't have to move, they don't have to travel, they can stay in their home turf, in their home place, where they play, and
well, you always want the number 1 seed. I mean, even if you have,
that's why I'm thinking. I think I'd like the Seahawks to win because I don't trust them as much in the other postseason matchups. And if you put the Rams on the road, I think that throws them off a little bit more than obviously them staying home would.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it more from if the NFC Championships game has got to be somewhere, I'd rather have it in SoFi than
absolutely. See, I think the Rams are the bigger threat, though.
I think they're slightly better than the Seahawks, but I don't think it's any great discrepancy. They each have their individual strengths and weaknesses. The Rams, people talk about the Rams defense, which has been very good, but it's also not a great matchup for the Eagles because even though the Eagles haven't been as successful, they're undersized, and the teams that do play well tend to bully them, and the Eagles are capable of that. Not saying they're going to do that, but that's what they did last year. Kyron Williams is going to turn the football over, and the Eagles are great at turning the football over. And you could just see Zach Bond punching it out, or Jalen Carter, if he's back, punching it out just like last year. So I think styles make fights, and I think the Eagles style has always matched up well against the McVay style. And I think Seattle's kind of the unknown because they don't play him much. They don't have the history. And they're a tough, Mike McDonald has turned them into a tough defensive team. And, what everybody wants to see here, they do better than anybody, and that's play action, deep shots, with the best receiver in the game. So they're capable of scoring. They're a really good team that I think people don't know about because they play all the way out there.
Yeah. And people are definitely learning more about it. But tonight's going to be a primetime matchup. Should be a good one.
Yeah. And look, if the Rams show up and beat them by 2 touchdowns, you'll say, well, that's a better team. Yeah. And then, you'd rather play the worst team, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think it's a bad spot for the Rams on a short week to have to go to Seattle.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I agree. No doubt about it.
Especially with no Devontae Adams. He's not playing.
No, so he was walking there. I'm like, that's not just a little tweak at the hamstring. That's a bad for an older player. That's no good. Oh, the West, John, has 3 teams right now in double-digit wins. You got the Rams and the Seahawks who will take a battle tonight, and then you got the 49ers sitting there at 10-4. They had that, last place schedule, and they've certainly capitalized on it. But do you think the 49ers go to, make it to the playoffs? Do you think they continue on?
Yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they're relevant in the playoffs. It's just, their defense has really struggled since
they have a tough close, John. They got the Colts, the Bears, and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So there is a world. I'm not saying they will. There's a world where they could lose all those games.
Yeah, there is. They got to win. I think they got to win one of them, but that's it.
Probably Monday night.
Detroit's real, and remember, Detroit, Green Bay. Somebody's got to lose those games as well. I haven't looked at their schedule, but I assume there's some division games in there. I know Green Bay's playing Chicago this week, and I think they play Detroit, but I'm not positive. I have to look that up. But so those teams are going to lose too. The teams wrangling for the other spot. So it's going to be really difficult at this point if they win one game for San Francisco to get knocked out. But I think there'll be a pretty easy knockout in the playoffs, to be honest, because the defense stinks, and it shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, Fred Warner's not there, and Nick Bosa's not there. Those are 2 pretty impactful players. And then you have the Brock Purdy effect. And some people love Brock. I'm not a big fan, but he's susceptible to turning it over as well.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. You've been on the record stating you think Mac Jones would maybe do better with that team.
I do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you entirely. I like Brock a little more.
He has done better.
Boy, the Brock Purdy arguments have been going back from you and Jody loved Brock Purdy, and you guys used to debate about him back in the day too.
Yeah, well, and he's proven himself to be a worthy NFL star.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yep.
But again, I think a lot of that is Kyle Shanahan. You have to give him credit because he develops quarterbacks better than anybody else.
I was surprised when they paid Brock, not because I don't like Brock, but because of that reason. Because
that's it. That's becoming a bigger thing now that Tua has been benched. That's going to become a bigger thing around the NFL. Is like, the mentality is, and I've said it numerous times, if you find the quarterback, you got to pay him. You almost have to be held high because the alternative is so bad. You're stuck in the realm of.
That's how you become the Browns.
Yeah. But these contracts are getting so big, you can't just defer to, like, you can't pay Tua Tagovailoa $50+ million. No. It's insanity. And the same thing with Brock Purdy. It's like, really? I think the other guy's better. Now that's this sort of secondary market. Let the Jet, but it's very hard. And the most notable examples are Sam and Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, before he got hurt. It's very difficult to find that wheelhouse where a bad organization destroys a quarterback with significant talent, and they have the mental toughness to overcome it and say, I'll keep fighting and I'll keep trying to get better behind the scenes. And then they get a good organization like that. That's a small path to find that guy. Now you might have it again with Mac Jones. You might, no guarantee, but you might. Then you got to get the player. You got to decide how much do I want to invest in the player.
Right.
But these kids coming in are just not ready to play. You're saying with Cam Ward's the number one overall pick. If he was, and I'm not trying to pick on him, but if he were the 64th pick, if he were Drew Makuba, whatever Drew was last
Tyler Shuck. When was Shuck drafted? Second round, right?
Exactly. Like these teams have to stop taking these guys in the top 10 and just, to use Tyler Shuck, all right, he has some things that maybe can develop with a good quarterbacks coach, and Doug's down there, Doug Nussmeier and Kellen. Who knows what he turns into, but it looks pretty positive early on.
I mean, obviously, why they take him in the top 10. You just said it a couple minutes ago. Teams, once they get a quarterback, they want to hold on to him, man, because the alternative is bleak.
Yeah. Well,
that's why they do it. I mean, obviously.
But some of these guys just don't belong near the top 10, and everybody knows it. And, when they're comparing like levels of football players, but they keep taking them. Some guys like Arch Manning's returning to college because he knows he's not ready. And Lenora Sellers, as everybody was on him, well, he could be a top 5 pick, and he was just awful.
I wonder how the college setup maybe changes this. Not that they're learning enough in college, but they are going to start staying more in college because they're making a bunch of money in college. I mean, these guys, you know what I mean? If you're going to be a 3rd round pick,
well, yeah,
a lot of times it makes sense to just stay in school. I mean, you're making millions of dollars.
Diego Pavia stayed until he couldn't leave.
Exactly. He's a rich man, God bless him. So that's going to start happening more.
Yeah, and it should. I mean, but it's not changing. I've talked to numerous offensive coordinators about that. It's just, and that's you're talking about the Cousins stuff. That's why pure progression is starting to get more to the forefront, because even a guy like that, and what I put for the people that saw the Kirk Cousins comments, what I put, Vic Fangio has a lot to do with this. He is the poster child for disguising coverage pre-snap and spinning off into coverage post-snap. And the whole goal, the whole philosophy is to make the quarterback hesitate for a split second, not even a long time,
right?
A split second before he understands what the coverage is. because so much of the game had gone to, okay, here, single high, split safety, this is where I'm going with the ball. This is the coverage. This is where I'm going with the ball.
Right.
And now they don't know what the coverages are, so they've gone to more pure progression, especially with younger quarterbacks.
Yeah. Wait, let's branch off the NFC West conversation and into that, John, because I do think there's a lot of applicable conversations here with the Eagles offense. So for those who missed it, I would highly encourage you to go and listen to it. It's not a very long clip. You'll get it done quick. So I'm not asking you to invest 30 minutes. 2 minutes is all you need.
Not asking to do homework.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins was asked yesterday about, coverage reads and the progression reads. John just kind of elaborated on a little bit, and he really gave a very in-depth answer in 2 minutes about how it's changed in the NFL, how it used to be coverage, and you come in, you isolate half of the field, you weed it down basically, and that's the way they play. And now defenses have gotten so good that it's become a lot more progressions. And then he also gave good context to it's not that simple either, where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you're going to get sacked, fumbled. So you got to get that ball out. And, he brought up even his time in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. And then it made me think, boy, JJ McCarthy looks like he's struggling with learning some of this stuff. But it's a very applicable conversation to quarterbacking in the NFL today, John. What were some of your thoughts on, you've been covering the game long enough to see the shift? And to experience that, to watch it with the way different quarterbacks play the game. How much of an impact has it had on the overall NFL product? What's kind of your thought process on that subject? Because I do think it also applies to, maybe some of the conversations about Jalen Hurts. You hear he's not great with progressions. You hear some of those things. I think it maybe applies there with Jalen. Your thoughts on Kirk Cousins' piece on progression versus coverage reading?
Yeah, well, number one, it's changed dramatically, and you've heard me say I like defensive coaches now more than because they're those guys are put behind the 8 ball. The NFL is trying to create offense because everybody loves offense. And these guys struggle, and then they figure it out, and they have figured it out, man. They have figured it out. And as Kirk Cousins will say in that clip, he's like, defenses they know what we're doing, and they're not going to allow us to do it. And really, Vic is at the forefront of this. So it is Eagles related because he's the poster child of disguising coverages, post-snap, till post-snap. So pre-snap, you show a certain look, and then you spin off into a different coverage post-snap.
Right.
And it has given quarterbacks fits, and that's why so many people have copied the Big Fangio scheme, and so many people from Sean McVay to Ben Johnson to Sean Payton, et cetera, have said this is what gives us the biggest problem. And the reason it gives them the biggest problem is because it's tough to as a quarterback, even a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins or Matthew Stafford, who has struggled with it, to say, all right, it looks like old school Tony Dungy cover 2, and then they're spinning off into quarters or cover 6 or something else, and you have to take that little hesitation, even as a veteran quarterback. And as Kirk Cousins said, sometimes he's 3 steps into his drop, and it's still muddy to him, and that guy knows everything. So it has become really, really difficult for guys to just, I would always joke about those legendary, Tampa defenses with Tony and Tony's in the Hall of Fame, and Tony Dungy and the cover 2 where, I always joke. I never liked cover 2 because, smart quarterbacks know where you're going to be lined up in March. If you're just playing cover 2, they know where every player on the football field is going to be in March. Forget about game day. And that's what I never liked about it. And sure enough, people caught up to it. And that's sort of the bandying back and forth. But now it's like, and you see these split charts, and I don't pay a lot of attention to the charts because, You have True Media, you have Pro Football Focus, you have Next Gen Stats, etc., and you have all these other things, Football Insights, and they all have different numbers. So that tells you that you know they're just as muddy as Kirk Cousins. They don't know what to. Some do, some don't. So you have to be very careful. But you might be playing cover 0, cover 1, cover 2, quarters, cover 6, cover 8, cover 9, depending on what it's crazy compared to what it used to be, which is, hey, here's the free safety. This is where I'm going with the football. And that's why it's Eagles related, because Vic is at the forefront of it. He is the godfather of all these disguised coverages. And there's a lot of different angles. You know, Dom Capers gets a lot of credit for the zone blitzes, you know, the Jelix Hunt play that people are, you know, you're backing off. That's different. So there's a lot of people. It's not just Vic, but when you're talking about the secondary, he's the guy that everybody has copied. And that's why I would say going into the Super Bowl, you know, everybody would say Spags. Well, why does everybody copy Vic? You know, and he's proven it now. And I think people understand now, certainly in Philadelphia, how good Vic is. But yeah, he's a big impact. And the ability now, from the defensive perspective, the problem becomes, can you teach it? Like right. Sean Desai was running it, couldn't teach it.
Yeah. Because it's very complex for defenders, obviously, too.
Yeah. A lot of communication. You know, Vic, you know, at his press conference yesterday, I think a lot of people are saying Reed's having a bad year. Again, he was asked about Reed. And he's been pretty consistent about, you know, how important he is to the team. And part of it is, and that's the reason Marcus Epps is on the field and Sidney Brown isn't. That is, you better communicate in that defense where you're going to have blown coverages all over the place.
Right.
I mean, you saw a little bit of it with Drew Makuba. But, you know, you have to live through those startup costs with young, talented player. And I think they're happy with Drew, certainly moving forward when he gets healthy for next season. But because he's so comfortable in space. But you saw him learning in real time. And there were some blown coverages. And those should lessen with Reed and Marcus Epps. And I think they have. Now bad teams as well. So that factors in. But I think it has lessened. But it is really hard for quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. They have no idea what they're watching. None.
Yeah. And you can see it in the way they play the game.
Yeah.
You can see it. Like you can, if you watch JJ McCarthy knowing what's happening, you can see it. How do you think it how much of an advantage is it, John, for Jalen Hurts to have Vic Fangio at practice? I mean, he's presumably giving them looks and, you know, the other quarterbacks don't get as often, you know, and it's you would assume that he would be better at this because of that. Maybe not, though. I don't know. What's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, from practicing against it, sure. But I do think that's one thing that I think a lot of fans don't there's not a lot of, like,
it's not the not be, yeah.
I mean, he's worried. Like, when you get into the regular season, everything's about preparation. So Vic's worried about the Washington Commanders. Like, he's not going over to the offensive coaches and giving them advice. He's trying to figure out how to stop the Washington Commanders. Now, people might chuckle at that and say, well, it's pretty easy. But you get the point. You're just hyper focused on your job. So Kevin Patullo and Vic are not, like, sitting down and saying, oh, what if I do this? What do you know? And the Eagles had an interesting, because when Vic was here leading up to Super Bowl 57 and he took the consultancy job, he was actually helping the offense. And Marcus Brady was helping the defense. You know, is it Brady? Am I getting the name right? I forget. The old Colts offensive coordinator who knew Nick from there. But so it was interesting. They had the defensive guy helping the offense and the offensive guy helping the defense.
Right.
And I thought maybe they would continue that, but they really haven't.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not more of that, you know, with these changes. So how do you evaluate Jalen in terms of, like, how this has changed the way quarterbacks play, speaking specifically about what Kirk was talking about, where he went from coverage reading to purely progression reading? How do you factor that in on Jalen's game specifically and the style of offense that he plays?
Well, he's in the same boat as everybody else because teams have certainly done that to the Eagles. So, you've seen some of it in real time. And, the Eagles play differently than most teams. So, everybody talks about the hitch routes. One of the reasons they run so many hitch routes is because they have two receivers that excel versus man coverage. So they trust them to get open against man coverage. Now, then when you again start factoring in cover 2, cover 3, cover 6, cover, quarters, and they've struggled a little bit. It's interesting because before they struggle against the blitz this season, they've done pretty well against the blitz, although there's been a couple outliers, and they've struggled against the zone, although there's been a couple outliers. And that's just sort of how it goes because he sees a muddy picture just like everybody else sees a muddy picture. And even more so because of the Eagles' reputation and what they're trying to do. But it has become much more complicated for quarterbacks. And I think, some of the struggles, when there are struggles, are certainly attached to that. It's become more muddy for them, including Jalen Hurts.
Interesting. It's good commentary. How much of that do you think? We had Joe Theismann on. Cilio had Joe Theismann on yesterday, and it was really a good segment. Where he talked a little bit about some of this stuff, but Cilio uses the word limited, or when he talks about Jalen Hurts, and Joe Theismann pushed back on him. He's like, I don't see that at all. I mean, when he sees what he needs to see, he makes the throw. How do you kind of evaluate Jalen at doing this stuff and because he is right, I guess, in some areas, like last week, that throw to the seam versus A.J. Brown. Jalen obviously saw what he needed to see from the defense, made the throw, got it out quick, was on time and on target. How do you evaluate that part of it? Because it does feel like, one of the biggest knocks, at least I see, whether it's true or not, you tell me, is that Jalen struggles with progressions, So how do you evaluate? How do you put all that together and kind of look at how Jalen handles the progression reading? Is it a weakness for him? Is it more what the defenses are doing that's slowing him down? How do you kind of gauge all that?
Yeah, I think it's a weakness for him overall. Now the limited talk, yeah, I don't. Again, I always say everything's about definitions. Like, what is your definition? Is your definition, limited because of the style of play? Is it because of like he can make all the throws? You see that, you've seen it. So it depends on the definition. That's where I'll start. I say number one. As far as progressing,
well, yours. Like I'm talking to you. Like, what's your definition?
Well, my definition is style of play. I think he's limited because of his style of play. Like he's not. I always say he's not going to be a high volume thrower. And so if that's what people want, they're not going to get it.
Right.
That's not just the strength of his game. So that's when I say that. That's more what I'm talking about. I think other people like he's one of the best deep ball throwers. He's proven he ripped the pass down the seam. He's proven to AJ. He's proven he can make all the throws. That part of it's not, and that's most NFL quarterbacks. One of the craziest stats I saw, and this shows you the value of stats this week, was that it was big time throw percentage from, or whatever they call it, tight window percentage, whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Matthew Stafford was number one, and somebody was tied with him, and the guy who was tied with him was J.J. McCarthy. Which tells you how meaningless some of these stats are. You literally have maybe the guy who's going to be the MVP against maybe the guy who's been the worst starting quarterback in football. But he can make all the throws, because he's got a strong arm. It's like, I've heard, some of the Eagles coaches talking about you can manipulate statistics anyway to prove your point, and that's part of the problem with them. But to get back to the limited discussion, I do think he struggles identifying coverages post snap. So in theory, progression should be the way to go, but I think he doesn't get to 3 or 4 too often. And as Kirk pointed out, you're going to be a lot of sack fumbles if you're trying to get to 4 and 5.
Right.
Now, Jalen has the ability to extend plays better than Kirk Cousins and better than most quarterbacks. So you would think he'd be more comfortable getting a little bit later in the process, but it hasn't been that way for the most part. And I think the Eagles are best when there's a lot of man coverage and AJ and Devontae can just go win.
Yeah, right. I do want to tell you what, these type of topics, Sean, they make me really understand what you mean when you're saying like you respect defensive coaches. Not that you don't respect offensive coaches, but you're more impressed at this point by defensive coaches who are constantly trying to change. What are offensive coaches doing to counter this? I mean, to me, it would be, and again, I'm not the expert here and I don't profess to be, but just simple common sense would say, well, the offensive guys got to be trying to figure out how to disguise what their first read is, right? I mean,
the defensive guys are always trying to, because they want the defensive guys want the quarterbacks to, number one, not understand what the coverage is pre-snap. That's number one.
Right.
And number two, post-snap, take away that first progression because then they start to fall apart if they have to go off it. Especially
why I just said what I said. I mean, if you would think an offensive coach would be like, make it very hard for them to figure out what our first read is. I get that. There's only so many guys.
Well, yeah, there's only sometimes football is such a weird game because sometimes it is overcomplicated and sometimes it's undercomplicated, and people try to make it less than it is. But more people probably try to make it more than it is. That makes sense.
Yep.
But one of the things I love when guys like Kirk get in the weeds like that is, they talk about what I've been talking about for years. Like, number one, that's because of what's going on at the high school level and the college level. That's why offensive coaches went to the coverage reads, where it's, all right, here's the safety, and they would teach them concepts. So it wasn't necessarily about the play. The plays are built in, obviously, but they would teach them concepts. Well, this is the safety's here, so this is cover one. This is where you go with the football.
Right.
And Kirk explained the 3 reads, outside, inside, then the dump off. That's what they were teaching for many years because they can't teach them these wild Bill Walsh West Coast plays because they don't have time, the preparation. So they would teach them that. And then the defensive coaches know what they're doing. And, they've said, all right, Vic at the forefront. Let's muddy this. Let's muddy this look for them. We're going to line up in cover 2, and then we're going to spin off, and we're actually going to be in quarters or cover 6. And they're like, oh, what's going on? Whereas in the old days, everybody would be stagnant, like cover 2. And now they're just moving around, which there's good and bad. There's good and bad to everything, both sides of the football. Defensively, you're much more prone to blown coverages. If you just stay in cover 2, you're not going to blow the coverage. It's going to be simple for the quarterback to read, but you're not going to blow it. So there's give and take. But now they're going back to pure progression, a lot of people, because the young quarterback specifically can't read it quickly. And then it becomes,
he's like, it's become now where if you can't read the coverages, you might not have to, or you feel better.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's just, you take it, you most of them are in the gun. They take it out of the gun And now it's not about the figuring out what coverage is, so they don't have to hesitate. It's about, all right, this is designed for A.J. Brown to get open. I'm looking at A.J. All right, he's not there. He's double covered. Then maybe Dallas is the secondary. You drop it down to that second level. If not, you dump it off to the back or whomever. And you don't really even need to know what the coverage is. You're just progressing. This guy's open. This guy's not open. I'm going to go to this guy. He's open. So you're not even worried about it. And that's what more and more teams have gone to, especially with younger quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting conversation with with this in quarterbacking. So I don't know. I'm fascinated by it because I'm fascinated by how listening to some people who've been around the game longer than I have talk about what quarterbacking was and how it's changed and how much. Yeah, I also really see, in these conversations, how much Vic has changed the game of football. I mean, he's like completely changed the game of football.
Oh, he really has.
Yeah,
he really
not just like defenses. Like he's changing offenses, he's changing quarterbacks. He's really changed the game of football, which is pretty crazy. John, can you just? I'm going to go football dummy on you for a second. Cover 6 confuses me. What is it? Split cover 4 and cover 2. Can you kind of?
Yeah, it's cover. It's basically. And again, depending on Vic calls it something different. He doesn't call it cover 6, but most people call it cover 6. So it depends. Terminology is just terminology, but most people, basically, you're playing. So in quarters, you're essentially playing quarters on one side of the field and cover 2 on the other side of the field.
Right.
So that's essentially what it is, but terminology is just exactly what it is, and some people have different terminology for it, but that's how most people would describe cover 6. And there's so many different infestations of it. There's a better word, but like he uses cover 9.
Variations might be a better word.
Variations, which is, his cover 9 is basically it's a match coverage. So it's he does a lot of man match. Like I would say all the time, well, people say Quignon's in lockdown coverage. And I was like, it's not even man coverage. It's man match coverage in his zone. But if the receiver leaves his zone, he's got to pass him off.
Exactly.
So it really is complicated from the standpoint of traditional sports and even from the standpoint of what defensive football used to be. But, cover 9 is what he would call a cover 3 weak rotation. So, it's one of the amazing things to me about Quinyon Mitchell's Cooper DeJean is they've hit the ground running as young players in this insane defense, which is,
right, where they need to know every coverage and every different
and with very few breakdowns. To me, that's the most impressive part of those guys.
Yeah.
But even like I said, he's got different concepts within cover 3, within cover 4 that he calls cover 9.
So how much of this defensive evolution that's happened in the NFL, how much of that is the reason that quarterback play is, perceived to be down? Are the quarterbacks not as good, or is the defense has gotten so much better that it's become even harder to be a good quarterback? I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Well, definitely the defensive people have gotten the advantage because of the coverages. Now, typically what happens is, once you see something again and again and again, it slows down for you and it goes back to the offense. And I think ultimately that's what happen. That's what will happen. It's just a cyclical industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's new again, like a lot of the teams that struggle, you'll see them go back to simplifying things and they'll get better. Because again, if you don't teach it correctly and you don't have players like Quinyon Mitchell and and Cooper DeJean. Like, you can go do what the Eagles do. Anybody can copy it. You know, you can get the playbook. Nowadays you can get all the film you need, even as a fan, never mind a coach. You can copy it, but the more important part is teaching the players to do it. And obviously the players have to have the talent to do it. So, you know, it's not just as simple as, oh, there's a lot of crappy Vic Fangio copies out there. Sean Desai.
Yeah, right. How much of the lack of preparedness in college, John, comes from what they do on offense as opposed to what their defenses are doing, where they're not seeing some of this? You know what I mean? How much of it is that versus are they just not doing it on offense because they run these simple shotgun offenses where they don't.
Well, the simple offenses in college hurt. You know, I was talking
more than like if they don't see a Fangio style defense in college. You think that's a bigger part of it?
Yeah, well, they're absolutely not seeing a Fangio.
What I mean, so even if you're doing good things on offense, you could get to the league and play Vic Fangio.
Oh yeah,
what the fuck did I just look at?
Well, one of the things, you know, my pet peeve this week. I should do a segment on my pet peeve of the week.
You should. My
pet peeve of the week this week is everybody's obsessed with under center because the numbers were so big. The Eagles under center, and like they figured something out, and this is going to continue. And I'm like, think about that for 1 second. Think about that. First of all, they removed Jalen Hurts, and they ran 19 plays in the fourth quarter. I think it was 19. I'm you know, and 16 of them were runs, you know, because they're ahead 31-0. Tanner McKee's in the game, not Jalen Hurts. So you don't. It's sort of like an expanded version of the run pass ratio. You don't get why it's more in a 31-0 game than if the game's 17-7 in the fourth quarter. But anyway, that expanded. I was talking to one of the coaches that expanded to. I don't even know why.
Yeah.
But.
Are you saying like people took the numbers from that game and were like, "Look, this is why they should be doing"?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, how dumb is that? Like in 10 seconds, like you should be able to figure that out. But to the point of the under center stuff, you know, and this was many weeks ago. You know, Vic's a big fan of Jackson Dart. And for whatever reason, I was talking about Jackson Dart, and it wasn't Vic, it was somebody else. But they said they were watching tape on Jack. And he said, I don't think I saw 2 snaps with him under center. I can't even think of one. His entire college career. So, I mean, when people just say put people under center, it's like these guys literally never do it.
Yeah, right. They're
never
20 years of life. They never do it.
So think about the muscle memory. And because, you know, the whole point of being under center is play action. And, you know, if you're going to hand the ball off, it's not the most complicated thing in the world. But the minute you try to expand it, 3, 5, 7-step drop, guess what? That takes pretty good mechanics if you want to do it right. And you're saying, well, that doesn't seem that hard. It's pretty fucking hard when you never do it. So you almost have to teach, and Jalen Hurts has gotten a lot better at it. It's almost like Jordan Mailata teaching them from scratch. So, you know, Kevin and Scott Leffler and everybody else with the mechanics part of it over the years has done a good job, and even guys outside the organization, you know, Tom House and Adam Daydu, and guys who work on mechanics all the time. Like, it's a big deal. So it's not just as easy as, they ran 40 times under center, whatever. It was 30 something. Yeah, they're 31-0 in the fourth quarter with Tanner McKee in the game. it's going to spike.
So people hear you say that about the under center, and they jump to the extremes and say that you're saying that it doesn't help at all, and it's simply all taken out of context. Where does it help?
It helps the running game a lot because you put more options on the table. And that's what teams have done this year from Saquon. They're starting to crash down. If you're in the gun, offset in the gun, you're pretty much only going one direction. And if you're not, you're pretty much going to lose yardage. And some of that was happening way too often as guys crashed, decided to take Saquon Barkley away. So, yeah, it can definitely help, and it has helped. But the assumption that, think about Kirk Cousins, who's a pure play action quarterback. All right. When you're a pure play action quarterback and things work, it could be beautiful. And you hold the linebackers and you get these big shots down the field. You're also turning your back to the defense, which, again, most young quarterbacks are not comfortable with. Right. So take Jalen Hurts out of the equation. That's why I bring up Jackson Dart, because I know you can't be – in theory, you should be not having an emotional attachment to Jackson Dart. So you got to go – he never lines up under center. And then you're telling them, hey, you know what? We're gonna run play action. We're gonna sucker in the linebackers. I want you to turn your back to the defense, fake the handoff like you're Aaron Rodgers.
You already don't know what the hell you're looking at as is.
Yeah, you already don't have the footwork. You already know what you're looking at, and I want you to be comfortable with this. I mean, that's a process. That's a process. And it's been a process for Jalen Hurts. It's been a multi-year process, and he's a lot better at it than he once was, which is the reason the Eagles are more comfortable going to it. They never went to it. And they're trying to do it more. That's all I'm trying to say. I can't control people if they hear.
No, I mean, what you're saying makes sense. I think anybody would, with common sense, it makes sense. But I think the question there is like, where is the adjustment needed? Because you're right. You're not going to, wake up one day, blink your eyes, and somebody's going to be good at something that they've never done. But also if a defense or the league has caught up with you or what you're doing, how much adjustment can you have to try and counter that, without getting
pretty significant. The Eagles have done it more pretty significantly, starting coming off that first bye, mini bye. So that was the was that the Minnesota game when he had the perfect passer rating?
Yeah, Minnesota, yep.
And they were under center more. Again, for them, So they've been tweaking it and trying to use it more. And mainly though to help the running game more than the passing game. But that's just a part of it. I mean, you also use play action from the gun and pistol, just looks different.
Yeah, looks different, has different.
And that's what they're obviously most young quarterbacks, because of what they do in college, are more comfortable with.
Yeah, it's amazing, John, that the league has legislated so much to go to the offensive side. Everything in this game is set up for offenses to thrive, and still, defensive coordinators and defenses are changing, evolving, growing, and making things miserable for offenses. It's really cool to see. It's very impressive the way.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, and what I've said,
retires, what a loss it's going to be for the league, though, John. Holy shit.
What I've said pretty consistently, like if there is, so the best offenses in the league, the Rams are probably at the top of that list right now. The Lions are still near the top. The Seahawks, the Bills, the Packers. Those are the best. So those are the best 5 offenses according to PFF. So we'll use them. The best offenses, if they are playing their A game on a particular game day are still going to beat the best defense because everything's skewed to them.
Right.
So that's how I describe it. But there's very few of those offenses.
That's what I mean. There's very few. John, it seems like this too. You tell me if I'm wrong. It seems like Vic Fangio and the style of defense and the way he's able to disguise coverages and have different looks, and he obviously has a smart group of players that have really done a good job at learning his defense and how to play it. It feels like he would much rather play a quarterback like a Stafford or a Cousins or Jared Goff as opposed to a player like Jackson Dart, who might not understand your coverages as much, but will make a play when it breaks down, or will escape the pocket, or will look downfield, or will run the ball. It feels like Vic would much prefer to play a pocket.
I don't think that's the case.
No?
No.
Okay.
Like Vic almost invites you to run the ball. Like, because that's good for defense. Like, they want you to run the ball. They
mean quarterback runs or just offense running?
Just offense runs.
Right.
But he'll live with some of the quarterback runs, and it's a pain in the ass. And Spagnuolo talked about it. And they, I'm not saying they enjoy it, but they'll live with it. Because they're willing to give that. There's a give and take to everything. They're willing to give a little bit there. If they can shut down the passing game. But yeah, I mean, for all the he loves Jackson Dart. He thinks a lot of people made mistakes and thinks he'll be a good quarterback in this league. But yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford's a chore. Even when you stop him, he's a chore.
Just all right, fair enough.
That to me, with the Eagles' success against Matthew Stafford, has more to do with them speeding him up. And they've had a very good pass rush. And sometimes it's not. It's, sometimes it gets in the quarterbacks, even a guy like that in his head. Like sometimes in the playoffs last year, like he thought the pass rush was there and it really wasn't there. But it's in his head that it's going to be there.
Right.
So I think anytime you're playing a guy like that, it's about getting him sped up early in the game.
You could literally hear it in Kirk's voice yesterday, couldn't you? Exactly that. He's like, you get the 4 and 5, that pass rush is coming. You're going to get sacked, fumbled.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
But those guys are, those few and far between these days. But no, I mean, as much and Vic, Vic would much rather play Jackson Dart than Matthew Stafford. He's not insane. But he does like Jackson Dart.
Yeah, fair enough. Is there any coach on the offensive side of the ball that resembles the Vic Fangio of the offense right now?
Oh, sure. I mean, Kyle and Sean are the
but aren't they not to criticize them? They're obviously tremendous offensive minds, and sorry to cut you off, but they don't evolve to me. It seems like Vic does.
Oh, I think this is a bad year to say that about Sean McVay.
Because he has a lot of 13 personnel with tight ends and stuff. Yeah,
tons. And Kyle's like, Kyle's the big Fangio of offense. Kyle Shanahan. So many people have copied it. So many, and really, he's copying his dad. I mean, so from that standpoint of nobody's been copied more than the Shanahan Kubiak tree, which is really what it is. That's like the victory on defense, on offense. I mean, everything McVay comes from that tree. Everything comes from that tree. 90, no, I'm exaggerating. More people have copied that tree than have copied Vic.
Right.
Seattle. That's Kubiak's son out in Seattle. A lot of nepotism. But good nepotism in the Kubiak Shanahan tree. Now head coaching's a different spectrum. Vic wasn't a good head coach. Kyle's been above average, but I don't think he's a great head coach because he gets too bogged down in his offense. That's a different conversation, but that's how I rate respect for coordinators or offensive, defensive minds is a better description. How many people copy you? And offensively, Shanahan, Kubiak, Tree. Defensively, it's Vic by far.
So do those offensive minds, do they struggle to build an offense around like a more dual threat modern quarterback? I mean, there's obviously a lot more dual threats today, and you look at the ones that they have. I mean, Stafford, Purdy, they had Mac Jones, they brought in Darnold. Like these are all offenses.
And they failed with Trey Lance. I still question what went on there.
To obviously have, the pocket passer to run those styles of offense, which is kind of what I meant about evolution. But I get your point about the personnel packages that they're running this year are much different.
Yeah, I don't think they're comfortable, well, with somebody like Kyle specifically, I don't think he's comfortable with dumbing it down, number one.
Right.
So I don't think he wants to dumb it down. So he's looking for a specific style of quarterback, which is fine. But when you don't have that, like it would have been interesting if he was forced to go with Trey Lance, but it never happened because Brock Purdy developed. I know he wouldn't have been happy with it, but you have to do it. Ultimately you have to coach what you have, and so like O'Connell, he's struggling with that right now. You got to coach what you have.
Yeah.
He's gotten better the past couple of weeks because he's dumbed it down.
It's interesting where the game is going, and great conversation there too. Let's get to some super chats today. I want to thank everybody for being here. I love a good football conversation like that one, John. Appreciate all the intel you gave us there, and appreciate everybody for being here. Hit the like button. Let's get to some super chats. Jason Gates, thanks for the big super chat, brother. Appreciate your $20 super. He says, I wanted to spike the football. I called the Jomo to have 5+ sacks, and you and John both said I was off my rocker. I don't know if I said that. So, booyah, there's my big spike. You guys are the best.
It is about. I'm already got my second pet peeve of the day.
Jason.
I'm like, boy, no matter how many times, Jason, thanks for the super chat, but no matter how many times, I mean, fans are so obsessed with stats. What you should be spiking the football over is Morrow's playing well.
Right.
Morrow's playing well.
Agreed.
I don't give a fly. Listen to a Vic Fangio press conference. He doesn't give a flying fuck about sacks. This week it's about rushing as one with Marcus Mariota, discipline rush. Again, I don't know how many times I have to explain it. I'll explain it again. Sometimes sacks are relevant. Sometimes they're irrelevant. Sometimes you get run into a sack because Jalen Carter created it or somebody else created it. Sometimes it's you, but everyone has deep contextual meaning. And it is one, if not the worst stat, it's one of the worst stats in professional football. And everybody's obsessed with it. It's bizarre to me. Bizarre.
It's true.
But Morrow's playing very well. And that is what you should spike the football over.
Is this a final year or more? No, he's got one more year, right?
Yeah.
Or no. Yeah, he's got one more year, right? His third year, it was a 7th round pick. What a great 7th round pick Morrow Jomo has been. No doubt about it. Good stuff there, Jason. Appreciate your super chat, man. Thanks for the $20. Here's Skywalk. What's up, Sky? Great show today, guys. A lot of info to absorb. Thank you, Sky. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was a good conversation. Definitely a lot of info. Here's Peter Riley. Xander, you and J-Mac are awesome. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it, brother. I think John appreciates it too. I don't want to speak for him. Here's Pumper. 2025 Eagles. Hurts progression to regression. Sirianni probably the worst actor in Hard Knocks. Curious case of Arthur and MILF Hunter adventures of man, Paul, you sometimes make it hard to read your supers, brother.
Get the Nikki Bella.
Hard
Knocks. Yeah.
When we go from in-depth topics of football to MILF hunting adventures.
Adventures. Nick, the worst actor, and maybe, who knows? I'm not as enthralled with Hard Knocks as some other people, but I don't think it's an act with Nick, other than when he says he doesn't listen to outside noise, because every time he talks on the sidelines, it's pretty clear he's listening to outside noise.
Here's Pumper again. Last one. Pumper, let's see if he continues to throw a wrench in the show today. He says, yes, Jay Hurts has the upper hand on other quarterbacks because he's got the defensive guru on the staff, but that hand is attached to his arm, which is a noodle. I don't agree at all. I don't think Jalen's arm is really the biggest
Why
problem.
is he, if he has a noodle arm, why? I mean, what does that say about everybody else? You know, he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. What does that say about everybody else?
You think he's taking a step back in that this year? Just from like an accurate, like I feel like he always used to drop him right in the bucket.
But like what do people think accuracy is on a deep ball? It's not a high percentage throw.
True. There are very low percentage throws. You got to factor that in. That's true.
You know, one of the reasons completion percentages are spiked from the 70s when a bunch of Darryl LaMonica's throwing the ball down the field, because everything's within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. You're going to complete 70% of your passes.
Right.
When you throw it down the field, it becomes a much more difficult adventure. And I don't think anybody is. I always say, if you're in the conversation, he's in the conversation to be the best deep ball thrower in the NFL. So what does that say about everybody else?
Yeah, good stuff there. Appreciate all our super chats today. Jason Skywalk, Corporate Pump, Peter Riley. Appreciate all of you guys for being here today. Don't forget to hit that like button. John, let's dive into a little bit of this Eagles-Commanders game.
Oh, no.
I know, it's pretty brutal. But I do want to talk about the players so that the people know exactly what they're watching when the game comes on. When you look at that Commander offense, let's start with their offense. We just had a great conversation, including a lot of Vic Fangio. So let's start there. That Commander offense, obviously no Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota. They do have some good playmakers there. They got Terry McLaurin. They got Deebo Samuel. Zach Ertz has obviously hit the injured reserve, and Tyree Jackson as well. What do you make of that Commander offense, and what do you think presents the biggest challenge this weekend versus that team?
The running game. I mean, they've gone very heavy run game with Marcus, as they should. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, you know, and Chris Rodriguez, you know. So it's one of those games where you don't want it to turn into, they're not going to run for 280 yards, but you don't want it to turn into Chicago. And I do think, you know, they're better running offensive line than pass protecting offensive line. So, and I'm sure that's the way they'll try to attempt to move the football. You know, they were kind of effective last week against the Giants, another team who's given up, obviously, but or would probably prefer to lose than win, to be honest. And they ran it a lot and pretty effectively. So I think that's what they're trying to do with their offense right now, without, you know, with Marcus Mariota, who, by the way, I think is one of the better backup quarterbacks in this league. I really do.
Fair. That's fair.
And
he's
he knows how
to this year. I mean, he's played not great, but he's played decent in his game.
For a backup quarterback, that's exactly what you want from a backup quarterback. But I was trying to, he threw it 19 times last week. Now they scored 29 points, and he only threw it 19 times. And Merritt ran it 18 for 96. Mariota himself was 10 for 43, and then McNichols was did nothing. But so they want to run the ball, and it's going to be Krosky Merritt, and it's going to be Mariota himself. And the Eagles have had some struggles with the quarterback run game. But like I said, I think Vic is willing to, especially with somebody like Mariota, who isn't going to have the explosive type runs.
Right. He might get 8 yards here and there, but he ain't getting 30. Yeah.
No. So I think that's a give and take he'd be willing to give up.
Good stuff there. John, how much do you think their receivers present a little bit of a struggle? I mean, they got Terry McLaurin and Debo.
Terry, scary Terry is still scary Terry. He's been, he hasn't played a ton this season, but he's back healthy.
And how's Debo been with them this year? I haven't watched much Commanders games because they've been really out of it. I watched a bunch early in the year, but not
never
much.
Been a big Debo fan, as you know, even in his prime. I think, I would say when Debo first complained about being in San Francisco and he wanted to go home to Carolina, I told him on this very show with Jody, I said, be careful what you wish for, because you're a manufactured touch guy and you're going away from Kyle Shanahan and other guys aren't going to utilize you correctly. I think that's the case. He's always been a manufactured touch guy. And, he's not, I'm a fat guy, so I can say it. He's fat. He doesn't keep himself in good shape. He's overrated. Big name. Overrated.
How's their offensive line been this year? You mentioned they're better in the run block, and they do have a pretty highly ranked run game, John. Laramie Tunsil obviously was a big addition for them in the offseason, playing left tackle. I think he's banged up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He was on the injury report on Tuesday. If he sits, I believe it would be Brandon Coleman is his backup. So that's something to keep an eye on. But what's that offensive line been like this year?
Yeah, it's better than I think. That was one of the points of optimism before things went off the rail, because they drafted Josh Connerly, who's a player the Eagles really liked. And, I saw some people, that dude's doing well for a rookie, and it's going to get better. So I thought Tunsil's played very well. Sam Cosmi's one of the more underrated guards in the NFL, but he's, gotten hurt. So that was one of the real points of optimism coming in. And I think long-term it'll work out with Connerly. And we'll see with the rest of it. But anytime you get to this late in the season and somebody like Tunsil's dealing with anything, you probably aren't going to play him. So, it's going to be a mishmash. And Coleman's been okay, but it's a big downgrade, to say the least.
Good matchup then, it sounds like, for the Eagles defense this week. Should be able to have their way for the most part.
Yeah, well,
it's the NFL. Anything can happen.
One of the problems with playing a team as bad as the Raiders is the next team's probably going to be better, and you better be ready for them to be better, even if they aren't great.
Yeah.
So you can't just roll it out there, is what I'm saying. But the Eagles' defensive front has been playing very well over the past couple games, even without Jalen Carter. So, but this will be a tougher test than last week was, at the bare minimum.
Would you criticize Jalen Carter the same way you just did Deebo Samuel?
No, not from that degree. No, I think most of Jalen Carter, like, nobody played more snaps than Jalen Carter last year. Right. Nobody.
Yeah, it was just a question. I wasn't accusing
and because he got banged up doing it. And yeah, some of his conditioning issues, which Big Cap talked about, is because of the pain in his shoulders because he played so much.
Yep.
But no, I've never. That dude. And this year, even with that pain, he was on a pace to play more than anybody else. He averaged per game still. He leads the NFL in snaps for an interior defensive lineman.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rosenhaus has him sit out to the playoffs.
I said that from the start. That was my prediction.
Yeah.
Maybe Buffalo if they needed it really bad. But if not, yeah, he's going to sit out to the postseason.
No doubt. John, Eagles defense versus that Commander offense we just talked about. Who do you think the biggest advantage for the Eagles in this one?
For the Eagles defense?
Yeah. Matchup wise, obviously.
I'll tell you what the most exciting matchup. I don't know if they're going to do it because in recent games they played Quinyon. They haven't been moving Quinyon as much traveling over the past few games. He's just been playing boundary for the most part. If they do move him with Terry McLaurin, that'll be the most interesting matchup. But as far as biggest advantage, probably the defensive front against the offensive line. Probably Jalen Phillips, certainly if Laramie Tunsil isn't playing. And Nolan Smith and Alex Hunt, those guys, the three-man rotation. All of a sudden, Nolan Smith is starting to play better.
Yeah.
And I asked Vic that yesterday. Pitch count is completely off. I've been very impressed with Alex Hunt recently. I think he's taken a huge step forward. And Jalen Phillips has been a home run as a trade pickup. So that rotation is really filled in nicely.
Yeah, it has.
And that's what I said, man. You get that headliner and everything else falls into place. Very true. Exactly what has happened.
Got some interesting contract discussions coming in the summer, don't we, man, with this team?
Yeah, well, I think, to be realistic, I think, Nolan's going to have to wait now at the bare minimum.
Wait, yeah. You think Jalen Phillips gets paid?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What's not to like? I mean, Vic.
Well, I'm just saying, we had a lot of defensive guys that were on the horizon to pay before we acquired Jalen Phillips. Now we've added Jalen Phillips, and he's an immediate pay. You got to pay him right away because he's going to be a free agent.
Yeah, but he's good. He's good.
I agree. I'm not saying he's not worth it. I'm just saying what else? Every action has a reaction. What is the reaction to that? Let's see what happens. Good stuff there, John. Flipping over to the other side of the ball when it comes to this Eagles offense. Obviously, it's been a little bit of an underwhelming unit this year. Maybe not a little bit, maybe a lot of an underwhelming unit going up against this Commanders defense. They do have some good players on this defense. They got Deron Payne on the defensive line. Mike Samer still has been pretty good as a cornerback. They obviously have Bobby Wagner and Von Miller, two pretty much legends, I guess you could call them at this point. Frankie Louvu. What do you make of that Commander defense going up against Eagle offense this weekend?
Well, it hasn't been a good year for them, to say the least. I do think even at this age, Von Miller is so savvy. He's not going to play what he once did, but you could see that being an issue for Fred Johnson. So I think that's something. Dorrance Armstrong, was having a good year, but again, everybody's banged up. So I don't see much to hang your hat on. I think, you mentioned Sandra still. He's not had a great year, and he looked like he was going to be a really good player as a rookie and kind of taking a step back. Lattimore, I think, is shot.
Yeah, me too.
So they've been really poor in the secondary.
That he's already shot. I mean, he got drafted 2018, I think.
Well, that's a long time ago in the NFL, man.
Yeah, it is, I guess.
That is a long time.
Yeah, I guess that's old enough to be shot.
He's going to be 30 soon. So, yeah. I mean, it's a dirty word for a reason in the NFL.
It is.
Yeah, their defense has struggled mightily. And that's, if you're it is what it is. Dan Quinn's a defensive-minded head coach, and that's when we talk about him. Is he going to be back? Is he not going to be back? That type of thing. It's the kind of conversation you have. And if you're one of those people that say he shouldn't be back, well, you point out to the defense, which is, I'm trying to look it up, 31st in the NFL. So very similar. What were the Raiders? 32nd? 31st in the NFL.
Oh, lovely.
28th against the run, 29th against the pass. So they don't do, it's not like they do one thing well and struggle at one thing. They do everything poorly. 26th in points per game. Literally everything. 26th in points per game. 23rd and third down defense. 22nd and fourth down defense. 28th in red zone defense. Everything. They're minus 12. They turn it over. They don't take it. They do everything badly on defense. So there's not much to hang your hat on other than they have two Hall of Famers. No doubt about it, Hall of Famers. and Bobby Wagner and Von Miller, but they're, not what they once were.
Going to be an interesting game this weekend. Maybe not that interesting is what it sounds like. Eagles should have a big advantage here. They should be able to win the football game. But it is a divisional matchup, John. They always have a weird way to maybe throw a hurdle. I remember when we went to overtime versus Sam Howell a couple of years ago. Now the third-string quarterback.
Yeah, Sam.
Eagles were the much better team then, too, so you can't go to sleep on these divisional games. How much do you think the divisional factor?
It is big. It is big. Teams know each other, and they played 3 times last year. So this will be the first time this year, but, they're very familiar with what each other does. So you saw it with the Giants. I mean, they split with the Giants. They split with the Cowboys, who aren't good teams. Cowboys obviously much better, but so who's to say they won't split with the Commanders? And if they do split with the Commanders, it's more likely you're going to lose down there than up here, although Week 18, meaningless, who knows. But yeah, division is a big thing. There's no doubt about that.
If I'm the Eagles, I want to lock this up this weekend. I mean, because then you got a tough game in Week 17 versus the Bills on the road. You don't want to make that Week 18 game have any meaning. If I'm the Eagles, you got to close up the division.
Well, I'm sure they would. It could be one of those wah situations. They play poorly, lose, and then the Cowboys lose, and you lock it up that way.
Really good. Wow, I love that. Oh man, that's true. I don't know if anybody believes in conspiracy theories, which I'm sure some of you do. The NFL probably wants to make one of the games on Christmas have some sort of meaning. So, hey, maybe they give the Cowboys a win and they dock the Eagles this weekend.
Yeah. Here's another one. Commanders defense has a league worst 7.5 yards per passing attempt and 6th worst 4.7 yards per carry in the running game. They just stink at every level on defense. They're just terrible.
So the Eagles. So another potential confidence game here for the Eagles offense.
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. To me, of the final month of the season, it's about getting confidence for the postseason. Not going to learn a lot from these games.
Yeah,
potentially from Buffalo again, potentially. But you're not going to learn a lot in these games.
Yeah, fair enough. Good game next week too. I'm thinking this team they got to wrap this up this weekend. That would be my.
Well, they definitely want to win.
Obviously,
they always want to win. I don't dispute that.
Can you imagine a world if they lost this weekend? On the road, and they lost in Buffalo, and now you got to fucking play these You got to go into Week 18.
I'm telling you, one thing
they would definitely win.
One thing I know about the Dallas Cowboys, they're not. I said it last week. They're not consistent enough to win 4 consecutive games.
Well, now it's down to 3, right?
And they're not consistent enough to win 3 consecutive games.
Well, they did a couple weeks ago. They won the Raiders and the Eagles, and who else did they beat? I forget who they beat.
They're just
that's right.
Talk about it. And that was, that's a game they should have won pretty easily, and they didn't win it. So, I wouldn't worry about the NFC East.
No, I mean, I'm not worried about
99% is 99%.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say there's a 100% chance the Eagles do not lose.
I called it weeks ago.
Yeah, you did. You did. And I hedged. I wanted to hedge. So credit to you, John, for making the call on Birds 365. Well done by you. All right, good stuff there. I think we got one more super chat to read. We'll read that off. We gave a good preview of the game so far overall. John, any other big factors there that you think are a factor in the game?
I think the only way Washington wins the game is a big game from Bill Krosky Merritt.
There you go, baby. What is his name? It's Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Is that it?
But they call him Bill. They call him Bill. He's pretty good.
Wait, Bill
runs hard. Bill, yeah, Bill.
Bill.
Bill, yeah.
Okay,
Bill. He's pretty good for a rookie.
Where did he play his college ball?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
Look it up.
Yeah, he's like a 7th round
Alabama
pick.
State Hornets.
Yeah.
New Mexico Lobos and Arizona.
What round was he taking? He was a late round pick.
Yeah, I think he was. Let me look this up. He was a 7th rounder, 240.
Yeah, 7th rounder. And yeah,
he's
they
not
fell
the
on.
only 7th round running. Who's the other 7th round running back that's been having a decent year? I thought there was one other 7th round back.
I'd have to look that up. But he's had a pretty good year. He's averaging 4.5, 4.6 yards a carry. He runs hard. You know, again, but if that's what you're worried about, Kyle Monungai, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, Kyle Monungai. That's it. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. Yep. So that'll fuel the don't take Jeremiah Love in the top 5. Which by the way, I wouldn't take Jeremiah Love in the top 5 if you're a bad team. I think Ashton Genty has proven that.
Yeah, right.
But if you're a good team and somehow you get up there, take that kid.
The best thing for me, Eric, in my opinion, is if you're right on the cusp and you're like you're breaking it, because like that was like the Lions a couple years ago when they drafted Gibbs. You know, they had the playmakers, they weren't quite there yet record-wise, but they had the pieces. You got to have the pieces. By the way, can I just make this comment? And I don't know if I'm right or wrong, and I'll eat my crow if I'm wrong. I know the Raiders are a bad team, but that dude Ashton Genty looks nothing like some of the other great backs who've been drafted that high. I mean, to me, he doesn't look anything.
Yeah, that's fair. He doesn't give me a Bijan vibe or Jameer Gibbs vibe. And that's where I think Love's got that. Love's
I agree with that. Anybody who watches Love, John, I think would agree with you. Yeah. Love is a crazy good player. John, last thing, I forgot to mention this in the open, but it was kind of a snoozer. That's why. But the coordinators spoke yesterday. Did you take anything from them? I never want to leave that out. Obviously, you were at those pressers.
Yeah, I think quite a bit from Vic. I mean, you know, he which, you know, kind of humble flex of, have you ever seen a defensive performance like that? He was like, oh yeah. You know, he said, now literally maybe not 75 yards, but again, I think he's factoring in the opponent.
Yes.
Let's be honest. I mean, he's had some really good defenses, play some really big games against good teams. So I think that's what he was kind of talking about. But, you know, as I mentioned, he gave some information on Nolan Smith, not on a pitch count, and Nolan's playing better. And then Reed Blankenship, which I mentioned earlier in the show, he keeps talking up Reed, which I think a lot of people don't understand, but he's steadfast on what he means to the defense. And you know, he was asked about Drew Makuba because he's eligible to come off IR next week, and he was like, "Yeah, he ain't coming off IR," which we told you it's not. Yeah, he's likely done for the season.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So a little bit of information from Vic and Kevin a little bit later in the day. I think he's just happy not to be in the crosshairs. But Kevin's more you know, if you look at Kevin's press conference, like Vic is rapid fire. He just answers the question. Kevin will get in the weeds with you. So I like Kevin a lot because he'll get into the Kirk Cousins weeds with you. From a standpoint, if you actually want to learn, and I know people don't like him, so that's difficult, but he says some good stuff if you want to read it. But you know, people just don't like him because he's the scapegoat. Their red zone stuff has been freaking impressive, by the way, if nobody notices.
Yeah. Well, I think our listeners notice it because you brought it up several times throughout the year.
Yeah. The Dallas Goedert stuff has been off the charts this year. Like, where was that in years past? Anybody bring that up? Now, a lot of that is, you know, if you look at the shovel pass, which they've used before, everything is used before, but you know, that's a conflict play. They put Devin White in conflict, and Devin went with Saquon, and so, you know, that's a good Jalen Hurts decision. But that's again an example of, you know, is that a good play call? Yes, it's a good play call. Everybody's like, again, there's things built into that. If Devin White crashes down, that's a handoff to Saquon Barkley. I don't know where it goes. but that's a handoff to Saquon Barkley. So that was a good job by Jalen making the right decision, and it looks like a beautiful play. But there's an example of a good play. And people say, well, that's a great play call. There's multiple options on that play. It's about how it's read in the moment. And, so Jalen Hurts deserves a lot of credit for reading that correctly and getting the positive result versus the Chargers where he read it incorrectly and got a negative result. So works both ways for the coordinator.
Yep, no doubt about it. Good stuff, John. Great show today. We got one super chat we'll read, and then we'll get out of Dodge, get your final thoughts here on a Thursday. We'll get the Eagles' agenda and things of that nature. John, here you go. You got someone who has made a Mickey account of you, John, with your name and your picture. There you go. PFF
God. I don't think that's a positive because, anyway, I always say that people with PFF are funny. Like when Jordan Mailata is ranked the number one player in the NFL, they love it.
Yeah, right.
But when their particular favorite player is not having a great season, they hate it, and it's stupid.
I think it's a guy like what you said earlier. It's a good baseline. It's not doesn't mean it's perfect, but it normally is pretty close to where a player is, which I agree.
Well, like I say, if they say you're playing well, you're playing well. If they say you're playing poorly, you're playing poorly. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah, right. So here he is, PFF god John McMullen. not to be confused with the legendary John McMullen. The fake John McMullen here said, the only thing Sirianni didn't do is smile and wink at the camera. I don't know what the hell.
In reference to what? I don't know what he's referencing. I assume it's Hard Knocks. Is that about the Jalen Hurts touchdown?
Well, shouldn't that Hard Knocks clip be enough for everybody to ease up on Kevin Patullo, John?
I didn't know. It's just natural.
Dude, you know how many times I get comments on JAKIB, John? The design sucks.
Oh, yeah. Well, those people.
I'm like, dude, Nick Sirianni, though, just said, this is my design. He said it publicly for everybody to hear.
Well, I mean, look. I don't get too worked up about those people because they, as I explain all the time, it's not even an insult. People get upset at that. They get upset at everything. You have no idea what the fucking design is. So why are you so confident about talking about the design of the fucking play? You have no idea.
Well, but wouldn't that highlight that maybe Jalen Hurts has had some problems with the design based on what Nick said to him after the play?
I don't think it's much of anything other than two people celebrating a good play in the moment. But anybody who doesn't know that this is Nick Sirianni's offense hasn't been listening.
Yeah, it's true.
I go back. I go back. You can go back to. I don't know if I can get to it this quickly, but when he first gave up play calling, and he brought up everybody. Anybody can call the plays. Howie can call the plays. Dom can call the plays. Jeffrey can call the plays. As long as I'm here, it's going to be my offense. He said that.
Yeah, I know he said that. He said that multiple times. He's doubled down on that sentiment many a times. All right, John, good show today, man. A lot of good conversations. Kirk Cousins brought up a great little bite, and that turned into a great discussion here today. So we appreciate that. Appreciate everybody for listening in today. John, what's on the agenda for the Philadelphia Eagles today? It's a Thursday.
Today's a Friday. Today's a Friday in Eagles world, and that means Nick Sirianni speaking. Little short practice. Probably, my guess will be in the bubble because it's so short. And then walk through on Friday and game day on Saturday.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, John, your final thought here on a Thursday edition of the show. We got one more show left this week. Then we got a Saturday game, so we'll have Sunday off, a little bit of an inverted weekend, which is weird, but we got it. John, your final thoughts here on the Thursday edition of Birds 365.
Yeah, I thought I love that stuff. So hat tip to Kirk Cousins. I love when people actually talk about the game, and maybe the Eagles can learn something from that. Yeah. It's okay to talk about the game occasionally.
I thought our segment on it was pretty good. I didn't really listen to it yet, but in the moment, it felt like we were having a pretty good conversation about it. So shout out to Kirk. John, great show, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Remember?
All right. See y'all.
All right. Thanks, J-Mac. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. You can follow him at JF McMullen. Appreciate him for joining in today. Appreciate everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. How's everybody doing today on a Thursday? This Saturday games, it's kind of thrown me off. Let me give you a little inside baseball. Anytime you have a game, when there's no live shows the following day, your boy Big Z is not in a good mood, okay? Because we, from a business standpoint, a viewership standpoint, and a monetary standpoint, the day after the game is always our biggest days from a money standpoint, from a viewership standpoint, where you have live shows coming off the games, you got big segments, big clips, big shorts, everything. Now we got a Saturday game. We'll have a post-game show, and then we'll have no content on Sunday. Not that I'll probably do some content, but we don't have our live shows. So I'm always like, fuck. We had a Friday game where we had the same thing. Black Friday, nothing on Saturday. I mean, come on. But how's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a good day, a good week. All right, we got the Saturday game. I thought we had a great show today. I thought we had a good conversation today. We had no guests, so I know you guys like guests, but every once in a while, you're not going to get guests. And to be honest, I like it that way. I don't like to always have guests to me. I like to have opportunity for us to be able to talk as well, get John's opinion, my opinion, all those different things, things that I want to talk about, not as much dictated by the macro conversations that you ask guests all the time. So, so good stuff there. Appreciate everybody for being here today. How's everybody feeling about the game this weekend? How's everybody feeling about the game this weekend? Fredo says, better get your notes ready, Zander. Hold on, Zander. It's Birds 365, so you shouldn't miss any days. All right, Fredo. Fredo, believe me, if I didn't have any people working for me that were making money, I would do that. I work every day. I got no problem with it. But, people don't want to work every day. Fredo, do you go to work every day? Do people in here who have jobs, do they go to work every day? John doesn't want to work 7 days a week. Silly doesn't want to work 7 days a week. That's not how it works. Chuck Hutton, I went to Chuck. I've been going. Don't you worry, brother. I never miss church. Never miss church. Actually, I'm supposed to be going to confession today at some point. What time is that? I got to look that up. I always go at this time of the year. I'd work for JAKIB. Brandon, can I take you up on that? Can I take you up on that, brother? I will gladly bring you into the mix. No, I'm not making you work for free. Me too, Bonehead. I love it. I like work. Work to me is a beautiful thing. It really is. Work to me is a beautiful thing. Going to confess I was wrong. I don't think I was wrong about Jalen. What do you mean wrong about Jalen, Gary? I don't think anything has changed on Jalen Hurts. I'll say that obviously when things are at their low in the season, that, conversation is more slanted one way than another way. But, what do you think I was wrong about? I'll admit I was wrong on something. What do you think I was wrong about? I'd be curious to hear. Just listen to Kirk Cousins. Daz, how good was that clip, dude? How good was that clip? Quantum says, then why call it 365? Hey, Quantum, you're on YouTube, right? We got clips going up every day. Quantum, when it's Saturday and there's no shows, can you watch Birds 365? Yes, you can. Can I puff on your show? I'll work. No puffing on the show, bro. Fucking puff on the show. Can I puff on the show? What's that even mean, bro? What do you want to sit here and load up a keister? Is that what you want to do? You want to load up a keister on the show? That's hilarious. Where's Gary? Did he tell me? Gary hits me with an LOL. That's not an answer, Gary. That's not an answer. Going to church is a scam. You can acknowledge. You sound like, what are you? We already had this fight. Deshae, we had this fight 500 years ago. We don't need to relive it. This is like bringing me back to the Protestant Reformation. We already had this fight, Deshae. You can fight with it with someone else, all right? Fight that fight with somebody else. The Protestant Reformation. We can do this on the road. We can do this on the road. We can do, all right, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Here's Fredo. I'm kind of worried about the Eagles. Just because I don't want to regress, I want to see consistency with under center play action and no 3 and outs. We'll see. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know what kind of consistency you're going to get. Any day Hurts has I don't agree with that. Nothing with this team. This year is easy. I agree, Joe. Joe, it does still feel like they're in it, dude. I get it. A lot of people, are down on the team because of the offense and all these different things. But you look around the league, you look at the landscape of the league, it really to me feels like the Eagles are still in this thing. And I get it. I understand. I understand, but here's Stephen Webb. Here we go. Whenever I say anything Catholic, how many Catholics do I have in the chat? Whenever I say anything Catholic, you Protestants come out of the woodwork and you're like, again, go back, Stephen. If you want to fight, these fights have already been had by people way bigger than you and I. All right. What is up with this? I say one thing. I'm going to confession. Every Catholic goes to confession or should be going to confession. Every time I say anything Catholic, you Protestants come out of the woodwork. Oh my God. It's like, holy shit. You got to be kidding me, Stephen. And by the way, it is biblical, all right? It is biblical. You wouldn't have a Bible if it wasn't for the Catholics. So have some respect, Stephen Webb, okay? Have some respect. There would be no Bible without the Catholics, all right? I think people are jealous of the Catholics. I do. I think people are jealous of the Catholics, all right? Keith, I think you guys are jealous of the Catholics because we have the history. We have the direct lineage back to Jesus Christ. We are the one true church. And not many of you like to hear that. Oh, I can do this on my own time. I can do it this way. I can do it this way. Look what it got. Keith, look what your Reformation got. You guys say, oh, I want to get married or I want to do this if I'm a priest. And now we got what, 30, 40, 50, 60 thousands of denominations of Christianity. Was that a win? I don't know if that was a win. I don't know if that was a win, folks. All right. God bless, Andrew. I love it, brother. All right. I love it. There's Fly. He's got a comment on it. Confessing to a man. Oh, gosh. Here we go. It's Philly Todd. Damn it, Zay. I'm not trying to argue about this stuff. I love my faith. I'll argue about my faith. I was insane. Wow, that's beautiful, Niall. It's awesome, man. That's cool. Here's Curtis. What's up, Curtis? Yeah, get me off of the religion. All right. People hate to argue about religion. I like it. I like arguing about anything. I'll argue about anything. Curtis, Z, we should beat Washington, but it needed to be another dominant performance to gain any confidence from it. There's a stat floating around about teams winning 35 to 45% of the time after a shutout. Fuck those stats. Those stats are, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. I mean, how many times are shutouts happening in the NFL? Seriously. How many times are shutouts happening in the NFL? I think there's been 2 this season. You know? Chuck Hutton, that's very true, brother. All right. I agree with you, Curtis. I don't agree with you. I just don't. I don't buy the stat. Alfredo with $1. Thanks, Alfredo. Appreciate the super chat, brother. Appreciate the super chat. All right. Let me find some football. I got you guys all going off on religion now. I can stir them up about anything, it seems. All right. It appears I can stir them up about anything. Peter, we will bounce back. Go Birds. Peter has been having a lot of confidence on this football team. I can respect it. All right. Okay. Stephen Webb says defense can carry us to the chip. Just need my eye is bothering the shit out of me today. You can see it's red a little bit. Just need the offense to play consistently. Well, I think that's obvious. I don't even think you need the offense to play that great, to your point. If they can play more consistency in the middle, if they can play more consistently, then I think you're going to be in good positions. It's the highs and the lows, right? Like one day the offense looks amazing where they play versus the Vikings and Jalen has a perfect passer rating and they dominate and Jalen looks great. Offense looks great. Everybody looks great. And then they have these down games where it's 4 interceptions, which doesn't happen often. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, you cannot like Jalen. He doesn't throw 4 interceptions. Has he ever thrown 4 interceptions? No, that was the first time. So, damn, Xander, what happens if someone, dude, my back, what are you talking about, Abe? My back I'm having a major back issue this week. M. Reyes. Where's M. Reyes? This dude, M. Reyes, put a bad spell on me or some shit. He's like, you're going to age. You're going to hit 30 quick. I'm 27. I'm not even 28 yet. And my back, man, it's brutal. Look, I got this damn thing right next to my chair. It's like a massage thing. You plug it in, start it up. It heats up. I'm telling you, man. I know I got to get a standing desk. It's funny, though, because I've had this chair. When I started this, I'm like, I got to invest in a good chair. A good chair, because I'm going to be in my chair a lot. I got this nice-ass chair. This thing is fire, all right? It was like $500. I never had an issue. Never. Like, I'm like, oh, God, I got a good chair. My back, I never have a problem. Sit perfectly, all good. And then recently, oh, it's bad, man. I'm telling you, something's off. This is not just regular back pain. I gotta go. Something's off. Something is off. What is wrong with my back? Holy moly. Xander turns 30 on Sunday. I know, man. It's brutal. That's what a fiat. Deshay, she does help me out. She's very good at it. She's got a nice gift with that. Are you sure you're using that thing for your back? What the fuck else would I be using it for? You gooner. All right. BGJ says, just wait, Z. That's nothing. Oh, I mean, because rubbing your eye got red. What? Oh, yeah. No, Abe, my brother. Abe, funny you say that. Funny you say that, Abe. When I was a kid, I used to beat up my brother. He'll tell you. He'll admit it. All right. He'll admit it. I'm the younger brother. I used to beat up my big bro. All right. He's smarter than me. That's what I always say. So you're smart. You got the smarts. All right. I used to beat up my brother. And the only thing he would do to get back would be he would find a time to 5-star me somewhere, anywhere on my body. Because I don't know why I had this like sensitive ass skin where if you touch it, it gets red. Slap my butt. And a whole handprint 5 minutes later would appear on my body. And he used to say, see, I beat your ass. You got a big handprint on your body. I said, fuck you. I'll beat you up. But, he had the handprint on my back as evidence. So he used that against me a lot when we were kids. Zay, did you see the Philly 500 Ghost? No, I have no idea what you're talking about. No idea what you're talking about. Oh. There you go, Tommy. Or Tom Murtha. Tom, good stuff. Tom hits me with the Catholic. Love it. Catholics unite. Catholics stand up, baby. What is this? What is the ghost of Philly 500 or whatever the hell you're talking about? Can someone tell me what you're talking about here? 500 got Ghost on stream? What the hell? Is that what you're telling me? A legit ghost sighting? What are you talking about here, folks? Let me see. I haven't been on the Discord in several weeks. Yeah, if you guys ever want me to go in there, you got to tag me. When it tags me, it gives me a notification. All the other ones, I don't get a notification. So you got to tag me. Can someone tag me in it and I'll click on the... If you tag me, it shows up. Getting old is a bitch, but it's better than the alternative. Exactly, Joe. I could be dead. I could be dead. All right. All right, let me see this. I don't see no damn ghost. The hell you guys looking at? Was it the noise?
This is weird. But you see it reflected here? I seen it. Something just walked by. But there was nothing.
I don't see shit. What are you guys talking about? I don't see shit. You guys are all paranoid. You guys are all paranoid. What are you talking about? Look, clean shaves and everything. Hey, what do you do? Put me in AI? Oh man, he put me in AI. You weirdo. If you take time out of if you take time to make a fakey account of me, I'll look at it after. I don't want to look at it right now. I'm not a big ghost guy, you know. Only reason I believe it is because 500 is not a ghost. I love Philly 500. I didn't see it. Ooh, HKP. I meant to ask John who he's got winning. I got the Rams, dude. I got the Rams. I think the Rams. I mean, I think the Rams are the better team. Rams have a good defense this year. It's not quite Seattle's defense, but they have a good defense too. They've been getting kind of torched, but they have a good personnel, I guess you could say, on defense. Better defensive line. Poona Ford stopped the run pretty well for them this year. Remember, Pumper used to make fun of me when I brought him up in the offseason. Well, he's done pretty good at stopping the run on that defense. You know, I think Matthew Stafford's the MVP of the league right now. So I'm going to take the Rams, you know. Who would you guys prefer win? John had a good reasoning. You know, he preferred that the Rams get the 1 seed because it's easier to play in SoFi. But some people prefer Seattle because they think Seattle's going to lose before the conference championship game anyway. That's kind of how I feel. You know, like to me, the Rams are the tougher test, and I'd rather them have a harder road, you know? So Rams are losing tonight, Zander, and we're getting the 2. Afraido, you switch like the wind, brother. I mean, you're telling me we're getting bounced, we're going to lose out because Kevin Petula is a pile of poop. Now you're telling me a little bit ago it was we're going to go 6 straight and win the Super Bowl. Then they lost, and you were off them once they lost. Now they won. Now you got them going back to getting the 2 seed. Afraido, come on, man. This dude in the chat who's got my face is duping me out. Clean shaved, you're duping me out. I'm going to block your ass so I don't have to look at my own face in the chat anymore. Here's Afraido. Rams are losing tonight, but if we are getting the 2 seed, I'd rather Seattle get the 1 seed because I agree. I think Darnold will choke. Z, did you see the Dak Glazed Donut compilation? Philly 500 on... No, did he post that up? Shit, I think he texted me it last night. I got to look for it. You got to look at it. That's pretty funny. Did he dub it up? The glazing of Dak Prescott? He probably could have put me in there. I was giving Dak Prescott some love earlier. All right. I think the Eagles can win anywhere. I agree, Zeal, but they got to get their stuff together, right? I mean, it's really not even getting their stuff together. To me, it's just playing consistent. You know? Yeah, Bald Z is going to be legendary. I'm giving you guys all the sites before I get there, all right? I'm giving you guys all the sites. Mine, what's up, brother? You know, Mine, I'll say this about you, Mine. Mine, people love to go at you in the chat for your politics. All right. Me and you don't agree politically, but I don't really care. It doesn't bother me that you're think the way you do, which is fine. I think diversity of thought is a good thing in the world. All right. Mine, you're always the most relaxed, though. Everybody seems to attack you, Mine. And you just seem to have the same lackadaisical, not in a mean way, but relaxed. I don't know why he's attacking me. He's the one who's attacking me. All I'm saying is this. I don't know, man. Everybody seems to be more emotional than Secunda, the Mayan, the flying Mayan. I'm built like that, he says. Good shit, Mayan. You keep fighting those battles, brother. All right? You keep fighting those battles. He's a communist who doesn't work. Well, maybe that's it. Do you not work, Mayan? I could see that. All right? He is a rage baiter. He's pretty good at it. He's a pretty good rage baiter. He is. All right? I swear Jacob's a bad. I agree, Abe. I agree. We hit everything here. By the way, I loved our conversation today about the coverage versus progression reading, how it's changing in the NFL, quarterback play, defensive play, Fangio. I thought that was a banging conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, but I really did. I thought it was a good conversation. I love getting into that stuff. You know, sometimes that's why sometimes I don't like having guests. Like if we had a guest today, we would have never had that conversation. You know, so I get it. People like guests and people like variants, but you know, sometimes it's nice to just kind of talk to John and talk about some of those things, which I think are important and good conversation. Our Twitch streamer, thanks for watching. I greatly enjoyed it. Thanks, dude. Yeah, it was a good conversation. Don't block the Baldy Z account. No, I'm blocking the Baldy Z account. You better reveal who you are. You're getting blocked. All right. Even though the Bald Z is looking good. All right. Bald Z is looking good. How many years you guys think my hair has left? Or is it less than a year? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Got the fresh cut on the sides already growing in, though. Man, haircuts don't last very long, do they? John rambles too much. You need to speak more. I'm good with John speaking, man. That's, you know, that's fine. Bald Z is crazy work. Is Xander starting to? I've been balding for years. Xander by 31. Oh, that's a long time, Abe. What was that, 4 years out? I probably shaved it before that. 4 years? Whew, that's a long time. First kid will be coming before. If I had to guess, first kid will come before 31. I'm 27 now. I'll be 28 when I get married. Yeah, I would guess 29 would be my first kid. Somewhere in there. Don't let your Gary, that's kind of my take. Don't let your hair dictate it. I like that. I went bald young. See, what are we talking? How young here? All right, I'm 27. Mo says 6 months. Fuck you, Mo. Fuck you, Mo. All right, 27 years old and pre-bald, and God bless America. I love it, Joey B. F him. I don't care. People always try to tell me I should be upset at bald. I really don't care. I've always known I was going to be bald one day. My dad's bald. Prenup, brother. Trust Bald Z. Shit. Reveal who you are. You're blocked. Shaved Xander. All right. Dude, I'm Italian, Steven. I got all my dad's genes when it comes to the hairdo. All right. My brother, when he was younger, his hair was thinning. Now he's like aging in reverse with the hair, bro. His hair is like growing back. His hairline is better now than it was 5 years ago. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? He's got my mom's dark Italian hair. That's what's happening. You know, I was always told it's your mom's dad where you get the hair genes. Has anybody ever heard that? Your mom's dad. So my grandfather, who's 100% Italian, his father was right off the boat. Both his parents were right off the boat from Italy. I don't know what happened. I've got the peninsula. I don't know. My peninsula, I don't think I'm full peninsula yet. All right, Drew. I don't think I'm full peninsula yet. Nice to see you. 26. We got some younger audience here. Yes, I heard that too. Denny, it's not working out for me that way, but Joey B says Corvette to a Chrysler Pacifica. Joey B, how dare you say I drive a minivan? I'm not a minivan guy. You know, you want to hear something funny? It's pretty cool. So for those who know, who followed some of my car journey, I have ZK's Garage, which I'm going to start posting on more. I got to get out of the Eagle season now. Eagle season makes me real busy. But anyway, so I have ZK's Garage where I post up my car content. If you don't know, go check it out. ZK's Garage on YouTube. All right. I post a bunch of Corvette content, but I've had the channel for a little while, longer than when I bought my Corvette. And I had videos that I posted up there from my truck, from when I had my truck. So I get a DM Tuesday. From some dude, and he DMs me this. I'll read it to you. He DMs me this. He says, yo, man, did you trade that Ram 1500 into Fred Bean's Chevy? I was looking up videos on YouTube. I saw your channel, and I was like, damn, that's got to be the truck I just bought. So sure enough, the dude who purchased my truck that I traded in saw my videos of my truck on YouTube and reached out to me. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. He's got a video. There's videos on my YouTube channel of the truck that he has. So that's pretty funny. I'm like, yeah, you want to sell the truck back to me? I'm in the truck market. I got to buy a truck. But isn't that pretty cool? That's why I love YouTube. Like, my ZK's Garage is like 2.8K subscribers. Got 2,000 subscribers, 2,800, whatever it is, 2,700. And he sees my videos on my truck. He purchased my truck, and then he DMs me about my truck. I'm like, dude, it's fucking crazy. That's why I love YouTube. It's such a powerful thing, kind of, you know? So shout out to that dude who bought my truck. And I'm like, dude, I got every service record on that truck. That truck was kept stone cold. He's like, dude, you kept this truck in perfect condition. I'm like, you're damn right I did. You're damn right I did. You are damn right I kept that truck perfect. Dude, I had my vet out in the snow this week. It doesn't do great. Got to get the all seasons on there and you're good to go. Bald Z. I don't want to read this. I got rid of my Porsche for an Audi SUV when I got married. 15 years later, no wife and no Porsche. God bless you. I'm Catholic. I won't be getting divorced. I don't believe in divorce. I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive. I don't think so, though. I got a good woman. Never happened. But it is funny. This dude's got a bald picture of me. It's fucked up. I mean, should I let this guy live in the chat? Should I let this guy live in the chat? I don't like it. It is what it is. I can take it. How do I send a super? I don't know. Not married yet. Balding, owns a Corvette. Z in midlife crisis already. Yeah, I am. I love midlife crisis. I love being the guy that's different. You know? Is it JD3? It might be JD3. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if it's JD3. Yeah, pretty funny, though. All right, guys. Good show. I will do a giveaway tomorrow, all right? I got a couple jerseys. I owe a bunch of people some jerseys. Not a bunch. I think I owe like 3 or 4 people a jersey. I got to get that shit done. I'll get it done. Don't you worry. All right. Zay, fire up the playoff machine. Yeah, I think I've used that before. Fire up the ESPN playoff machine. Yeah, I've used this thing before. All right, how do you pick a winner, though? Okay. So you pick who wins. The Eagles are going to win this one. If the Rams win tonight. Yeah, I've used this. I should have done it another time. I should have done it earlier. Yeah, that's a nice little machine, though. All right. Brandon, I'll send it to you again. It cost me $50 to ship it to you, and then they returned it to my house. I'm like, what the fuck? I just wasted $50. I just wasted 50 fucking bucks. Sorry, I gotta stop cursing. I'm supposed to stop cursing. It's Christmas season. We're all the Protestants. Get mad at me for that. Instead of confession. Jeez, criminy. Holy mackerel. JD3, you better change that name back. Although, what AI did you use? Because that's a decent bald head you got there. This was the one I made. Where's the bald head I made? It was pretty funny. There's the bald head. I think ChatGPT made this for me. I think yours is better. I think yours is better, bro. I think yours is better. Shave Z, don't curse. That's true. That's true. I got to stop the cursing. All right. Love all you guys. Appreciate you for being here, man. Hit that like button. Big game this weekend for the Birds. I think the Birds will come out on top. Let's wrap this division up. I don't think you want to extend this thing much longer. All right. I don't think you want to extend this thing much longer. So I appreciate y'all being here. Hit that like button. All right. Thanks as always for the support from everybody. All right. Even the good, the bad, the indifferent. You know, somebody told me the other day, they said, not all of your supporters are good. You want to shed some of them. I'm like, what do you mean? So I'll have to elaborate on that another time, but I saw that somewhere. So appreciate it. Hit the like button. See you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.